Ethan was a brilliant 34-year-old software engineer, living in a grand suburban mansion in upstate New York. From the outside, his life looked perfect: wealth, intelligence, success. But inside the house, and inside Ethan, there was silence. He had never truly recovered from losing his mother as a teenager, and the loss had left him emotionally closed off. Love, marriage, companionship, all of it seemed like unnecessary distractions to him. His heart was guarded, his mind constantly buried in work, and he believed solitude was strength. His father, Mr. Grayson, now in his 70s, shared that same house, though it often felt more like a memory than a home. Every evening, he set the dinner table for two, even though only one plate would be touched. He'd sit there quietly, spoon in hand, casting a glance at the empty chair across from him. It was the same chair his wife once filled, and the one he wished Ethan's future wife would one day occupy. But Ethan never noticed, or chose not to. Mr. Grayson loved his son deeply, but watching Ethan build walls around his heart broke him a little more each day. He knew his time was limited, and all he wanted before he left this world was to see his son truly happy, not just successful, but surrounded by love. Yet no word seemed to reach Ethan anymore. He had everything: wealth, talent, a roof above his head. Everything, except the one thing that truly mattered most: someone to share his life with. Mr. Grayson couldn't bear to watch his son grow old in silence. With Ethan refusing to open his heart to love, the old man made a decision both desperate and deeply selfless. He would go where kindness still lived, in the hearts of strangers. Disguising himself as a beggar, he put on a tattered coat, scuffed shoes, and leaned on an old cane. Each afternoon, he sat near a busy downtown cafe, hoping not for money, but for someone who would see beyond appearances, someone who might be right for his son. The days passed. People hurried by. Some dropped coins without a glance. Others avoided him entirely. He began to wonder if love had gone out of the world entirely. Then, on a gray and drizzling Tuesday, everything changed. A young woman with an umbrella and a kind smile approached. She didn't toss him a coin or look away. Instead, she knelt beside him, handed him a warm sandwich, and asked, "Have you eaten today?" Her name was Lila. She didn't see a beggar. She saw a man with a story. And that small act, so simple, so human, made Mr. Grayson's eyes well with tears. For the first time, he felt a spark of hope. Not for himself, but for his son. Because in that moment, he saw in Lila something rare: compassion without condition. And he knew, deep down, that she could be the light Ethan didn't know he needed. Each afternoon, beneath the shade of an old oak tree, Mr. Grayson waited, not for charity, but for conversation. And each day, Lila returned, always with something in her hands: a coffee, a muffin, a sketchpad. But most importantly, with warmth in her voice. She was a children's book illustrator, she said, with a heart full of stories and colors. She believed in people's goodness, no matter how they looked. Her laugh reminded Mr. Grayson of his late wife, soft, genuine, and full of life. Their talks grew longer, deeper. They spoke of art and dreams, of quiet mornings and lost loves. Slowly, Mr. Grayson began to open up, not about himself, but about his son. He painted Ethan in gentle strokes: a man too smart for his own good, kind but guarded, someone who had once loved deeply and was now afraid to feel again. Lila listened, genuinely moved. "He sounds like someone I'd love to meet," she said one day, her eyes thoughtful. Mr. Grayson's heart skipped. What began as a simple disguise, a desperate plan, was now turning into something real. This woman wasn't just kind. She was perceptive, patient, and full of soul. And though he had lied about who he was, the connection they shared was anything but false. What started as a lie began to feel like a destiny being written in whispers, under an old tree where two strangers met, and hearts quietly began to open. It was a sunny Sunday afternoon when Mr. Grayson invited Lila over for tea. She hesitated at first, unsure why a man she believed to be a beggar lived in a house that looked like something out of a magazine. But his eyes held no trickery, only truth. Once inside, Mr. Grayson sat her down and quietly told her everything. The disguise. The plan. The hope that maybe, just maybe, he could find someone who could see past his son's walls. Lila sat in silence, processing it all. She wasn't angry. She was moved. Because behind the deception wasn't selfishness, it was love. A father's love so fierce, it was willing to bend pride and dignity just to save his son from a lonely future. Just then, Ethan walked in, confused to see a stranger in the living room, and even more confused when she stood and said, "So, you're Ethan." Mr. Grayson stepped back, letting the moment unfold. Ethan's expression tightened. "What's going on?" Lila looked him in the eye. Her voice was calm, but firm. "Your father pretended to be a beggar. Just to find someone kind enough to love you." The room went still. Ethan looked at his father, and for the first time in years, he truly saw him, not as an old man stuck in his ways, but as someone who had spent every day trying to fill a void Ethan refused to face. And in that silence, something began to heal. 1 year later, the house that once echoed with silence now rang with laughter, music, and life. The same long dining table that had witnessed years of quiet dinners and empty chairs was now full, plates passed around, stories shared, and hearts connected. Ethan and Lila sat side by side, hands brushing, eyes filled with a quiet joy. They were engaged now, planning a life built not just on love, but on the extraordinary journey that brought them together. At the head of the table sat Mr. Grayson, his eyes moist but smiling, watching the two people he cared for most share a world he once feared his son would never know. He didn't say much. He didn't have to. Every sound, every smile, every clink of silverware was a reward for the sacrifice he had made. No one at that table remembered the silence anymore. All they knew was that love had found its way in, quietly, unexpectedly, beautifully. And as the candles flickered and the room glowed with warmth, a gentle voiceover closed the chapter. Sometimes, love finds its way not through grand gestures, but through the quiet sacrifice of a father's heart.